The dark secret: why a little girl invited a lonely CEO to join her family at 3 a.m. The moon hung low, a ghostly sentinel in the sky, casting an eerie glow over the quaint suburb of Crestwood Pines. It was just past 3 in the morning when the soft patter of little feet echoed against the wooden floors of the Johnson household. In the stillness, eeriness crept in as bicycle wheels turned in sleep-worn dreams and distant shadows stretched across beds. Chloe, not yet 8, held a crumpled piece of paper tightly in her tiny fists. A hand-drawn heart surrounded by scribbles glimmered with a child's magic, but underneath lay a secret that could shatter worlds. Strange things had been happening lately in Crestwood. A notorious CEO, known for his endless hours of work and cold demeanor, had moved in just down the street. Families whispered about him, casting furtive glances and tucking their children close. Rumors churned through the neighborhood like autumn leaves caught in a gust. They said he couldn't even stand the mere sound of laughter. Yet, somehow, he was the one Chloe felt drawn to. On that fateful night, fueled by curiosity and innocence, she wrote him an invitation, a plea from her heart: join us for a midnight snack. Tension gripped the air like a tightening noose. The streetlights flickered as if they too were unsure about what would happen next. Would a lonely CEO really respond to the innocent, hopeful call of a little girl? Rumors of his late-night walks only added a layer of intrigue. Could someone so isolated, so powerful, behind gates and walls, come to share a moment of warmth with her family? Chloe's shoulders quivered with excitement and fear. It was as if she were summoning a specter, a ghost dressed in a tailored suit, under the pretense of light-hearted charm, and she sensed it deep in her chest. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads-up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. With bated breath, Chloe returned to her bedroom, her heart racing like a hummingbird trapped in a glass jar. Minutes crawled by, the house seemingly holding its breath alongside her. Shadows danced, stretching and shrinking with each whispered sound. Then, the doorbell echoed through the stillness, loud and sharp as thunder. Was this the moment that the darkness would part? Would he be standing there, backed by a cold suit, or just another figment of her imagination? All she knew was that whatever came next, it would forever change her family and the lonely heart of that mysterious CEO lurking just beyond the threshold. The clock ticked ominously as she opened the door, anticipation knotting her stomach like a tightly wound spring. What awaited her on the other side would echo through the quiet streets of Crestwood Pines for years to come. The door creaked slowly, the cold metal handle cool against Chloe's small palm. She peered outside, heart hammering in her chest. The hallway was empty, the streetlights casting long shadows over the pavement. And yet, there he was, a figure emerging from the gloom, tall and imposing, dressed in a tailored black suit. His face was drawn, almost gaunt, illuminated by the moonlight like a statue chiseled from stone. "Are you Chloe?" he asked, his voice deep and rich, cracking slightly as if weighted by years of silence. "Why yes," she stammered, feeling the weight of his gaze. His eyes, dark and analyzing, flickered with something she couldn't place. Fear? Sadness? Maybe both. He nodded silently, the dark shadows lingering around him like a cloak. "You sent me an invitation?" The question hung in the air, heavy and surreal. Chloe's voice wavered. "I did. I thought you might like to have a snack, with my family." She could almost hear the worry in her own words, a tremor that felt out of place in her innocent intent. A ghost of a smile flickered on his lips, yet it never reached his eyes. There was something disquieting in that moment, a flicker of hope battling an undercurrent of dread. Before she could think twice, she stepped aside, her small gesture welcoming him inside that he entered, an unfamiliar presence dominating the cozy, familiar space of the Johnson home. The air thickened, charged with an uneasy electricity. Chloe could hear her parents stirring, half-asleep murmurs almost echoing their shared incredulity as they sensed a new soul intruding upon their peaceful hours. "Mom! Dad! Look who came!" Chloe called, spinning around and leading him to the kitchen, her heart still racing. Her father blinked awake, squinting at the looming figure against the dim light. "Who?" Words faltered. "What are you doing here?" Chloe's father stood abruptly, tension rippling through him. Her mother followed, eyes wide, concern mingled with confusion. There was fear there too, a wave of uninvited apprehension washing over even the warmest of welcomes. The CEO shifted uncomfortably, his professional demeanor slipping for just a moment. He began, his voice faltering as if caught off guard by the unexpected warmth of familial chaos. "I heard the invitation and thought, perhaps what?" Her father interjected, a protective edge sharp in his tone. Chloe could feel the weight heavy on her small shoulders, the shift in atmosphere clawing at her innocence. She looked at the CEO, chaos swirling in her mind. What had she brought to her family? Who was this man truly? And, more crucially, what haunted him? "Just a snack," Chloe interjected, trying to lighten the tense air. But her voice barely broke through the suffocating silence that fell upon them. He stood there, a man who had spent too long in darkness now thrust into unexpected light, and something flickered behind his eyes, a moment of vulnerability. But like a mirage, it slipped away, masked behind a professional facade. As her mother hastily prepared sandwiches, the weight of unspoken truths pooled in the corners of the room. The laughter and chatter Chloe had hoped would fill the void felt distant, a chasm too wide to bridge as their guest remained unsettlingly still. Suddenly, a crash echoed from the living room. It snapped them back to reality, hearts racing. They rushed to investigate, Chloe clinging to the CEO's suit as if it were a lifeline. When they reached the living room, they froze. A family portrait lay shattered on the floor, the glass reflecting fragmented images of joy now disrupted. It felt like a sinister omen. The CEO, too tall and quiet, stared at the mess, his expression unreadable. "Is everything okay?" Chloe asked, her small voice trembling in the sudden stillness. But a chill ran down her spine as she could feel the surface of something darker brewing underneath their invitation, and in that moment, as the pieces glimmered, she could sense that their lives were now entwined in a web far more complex than she could ever imagine. What secrets would unfold among them now? What shadows lingered between the threads of their lives, waiting to be exposed? Chloe's heart raced, caught in a storm of confusion. Her little home, once a sanctuary, now felt like an island in a turbulent sea of tension. The shattered portrait lay there, a symbol of unexpected disruption, piercing through the fragile sense of safety. She clutched the CEO's sleeve tighter, her tiny fingers trembling as they sought reassurance. What happened? Her mother finally broke the heavy silence, eyes darting between the pieces of glass and the strange man at their doorstep. The CEO's gaze remained locked on the remnants of the portrait. It was nothing, he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. But the weight of his words, heavy and cautious, suggested he was fighting a battle within himself. "Nothing doesn't shatter, Mr. Her father's voice carried a sharp edge. "What's your name?" "Call me Ryland," he replied, finally tearing his eyes away from the broken glass. The name hung in the air, echoing like an uninvited guest. Chloe sensed her father's muscles tense, the protective instincts flaring up. She didn't understand why Ryland stirred unease in her father, why he seemed like a dark cloud, always looming. But she couldn't shake the feeling there was more at play than simple introductions. "Chloe, sweetie," her mother said softly, kneeling beside her. "Why did you let him in?" I thought he might be lonely," Chloe stammered, her innocence bubbling up despite the unease. "I wanted him to feel welcome." Ryland's mouth twitched with a ghost of appreciation, his serious demeanor lifting for a brief moment. But the room's atmosphere remained frigid, festered with suspicions. Chloe's father folded his arms, shifting his weight from one foot to the other. You think a man like him needs our hospitality? You have to be careful, Chloe. You don't know what he wants. Ryland took a step closer, his presence filling the small space like an approaching storm. I didn't come here for trouble. Just an invitation. He hesitated, and for a flicker of a heartbeat, vulnerability brushed his face. I came because I didn't want to be alone. Her mother's expression softened just a bit, torn between the protective instinct and empathy. People tend to be cautious, especially with strangers. It's a dreadful time. The strange man nodded slowly, acknowledging the truth of the words. With each moment, the crack in his armor widened, beneath the tailored suit, and the calculated smile echoed a haunting loneliness that Chloe could almost touch. Sometimes it's easier to be alone than to seek help, Ryland revealed, his words thick with an honesty that unsettled even the most guarded hearts in the room. A sudden weight crashed upon them. Had she unknowingly invited a specter into her home? Was he here to haunt them with his sorrows, or was there more behind those haunted eyes? But before anyone could respond, another crash jolted the moment, this time from the upstairs hallway. A thudding noise reverberated, heavy and foreboding, as though something or someone was coming down. Chloe's pulse quickened. What was that? She whispered, glancing at Ryland, whose eyes were now wide, more alert than ever, his earlier demeanor straightening in a way that was both action and warning. The sound grew louder, each thud resonating with an ominous rhythm that echoed the chaos in Chloe's heart. Curiosity battled with fear, and she felt a knot form in her stomach. I'll check it out, her father said sternly, glancing at Ryland, gesturing for him to stay put. With protective instincts on full display, he moved cautiously toward the staircase. Wait. I'm coming too. Chloe insisted, slipping out of Ryland's grasp, urgency fueling her to face whatever lurked overhead. As they reached the stairs, an uneasy stillness filled the air. Ryland lingered behind, the shadows around him shifting in the dim light. He felt both like a captive and a savior. Chloe's father turned to give a nod to Ryland, uncertainty flashing between them as the mystery above loomed like a storm cloud ready to burst. She could feel it. The night was not finished surprising them yet. What if Chloe steeled her voice, trembling with anticipation and dread, what if this is just the beginning? As they braced for the unknown, a door creaked open at the end of the hallway. The shadows shifted, and time itself seemed to still. What awaited them beyond that threshold? The door creaked wider, revealing a dim hallway bathed in flickering light. The air felt thick, vibrating with tension as Chloe strained to peer into the depths of what might lay beyond. Her father's hand was tense on the banister, but she could see a flicker of concern in his eyes, something beyond mere fear. There was something personal at stake. Stay behind me, he instructed, but Chloe could hardly breathe, caught between fear and relentless curiosity. What could be hiding there? As her father stepped forward, the floorboards groaned in protest underneath him. Chloe remained close, heart pounding, feeling both trepidation and an undeniable urge to protect her family, even from whatever might emerge. The soft light barely illuminated the space, casting eerie shadows that danced along the walls. Then, a long figure emerged from the darkness, shifting and indistinct. A wave of dread washed over Chloe. It's okay, it's only her father began, but the familiar voice caught in his throat, swallowed by the tense air. The figure stepped fully into the light, and Chloe's breath hitched. It was Miss Harper, their kind neighbor, though her expression was twisted with fright, her eyes wide and wild, glistening with unshed tears. Please, you have to help me. She gasped, her hands clenching together as if all her strength was focused there. What's wrong? Her father stepped closer, instinctively protective. There's someone looking for me, Miss Harper stammered, as if each word was a frantic escape from her lips. I saw them in my yard, and then in the street. They know I can't be alone. I don't know who they are, but they mean to harm me. Chloe felt a chill spread deep within her, a creeping dread slinking around her spine. What do you mean? Why would they hurt you? Suddenly, Ryland moved forward, his voice steady but urgent. "Miss Harper, where did you see them? Are you sure you weren't imagining things?" "No," she cried, shaking her head. "I'm certain. I locked my doors, but I could hear them outside whispering my name." Chloe's heart raced. The world outside felt alive, a beast hungry to breach their sanctuary. Was Ryland connected to this threat? His unease had risen to an almost tangible level, matching the fervor in Miss Harper's eyes. "We need to call the police," Chloe's father said, glancing towards the living room where the phone lay, only a few feet away. "They can take you somewhere safe." "No," Miss Harper shouted, fear flashing fully to panic. "If the police get involved, they'll know I told you. Please, you don't understand. If they find out I'm here, they will come for me." Ryland suddenly stepped between them, voice dropping lower, intent and firm. "We need to think clearly. There might be a way to find out who's really after you without escalating." His tone had shifted, leaving Chloe uncertain of whether to trust him or fear him more. Who was this man really? In the stillness that followed, Chloe glanced back at her parents, their faces capturing a blend of confusion and wariness. They had welcomed Ryland, hadn't they? Yet now, the darkness that lurked in the shadows seemed thicker, more threatening than before. "What do we do?" Chloe murmured, her voice barely a whisper. The world outside felt as if it was closing in, the weight of it all pressing down on her. Just then, the phone in the living room started ringing, shattering the suffocating silence like a gunshot, reverberating through their bones. Time stretched as they all froze, eyes bouncing between the ringing phone and the anxious faces before them. "What if it's them?" Chloe breathed, horror curling in her stomach. Ryland's eyes locked onto hers, intense in the fading light. "We need to answer it. There's no other choice." But with that decision resting heavily in the air, Chloe wondered what secrets awaited to unravel with that single ring. Would the darkness spill into their lives, or was it already too late? The phone rang incessantly, a piercing shrillness that clawed at Chloe's nerves. Each ring echoed through the living room, a reminder that time was slipping away, and they were standing on the precipice of something unspeakable. Her father exchanged glances with Miss Harper, the fleeting fear between them like a silent language. How much danger was really looming? "Just answer it," Miss Harper begged, her voice shaky, her eyes darting toward the door as if she expected someone to burst in at any moment. "No, wait," her father cautioned, his hand raised. "We can't just someone has to pick it up," Ryland insisted, stepping closer to the phone as if drawn by an invisible force. "We're running out of options here. Information is our only ally." Chloe's heart thudded painfully against her chest. She clutched Miss Harper's arm, feeling the tension radiating off her neighbor's frail figure. "What if it's them?" she whispered, almost to herself. "Then we need to know," Ryland declared, his voice a mix of steel and urgency. He glanced at Chloe, a flicker of understanding in his eyes that made her stomach twist. "Together, we can handle whatever comes next." Against her better judgment, she nodded. She felt trapped between Ryland's steady resolve and the palpable fear in the air. Adrenaline surged through her veins as Ryland reached for the receiver, the world outside seeming to hold its breath. As he lifted the phone, the ringing stopped abruptly, replaced by silence that felt heavier than before. A chill ran down Chloe's spine. "Hello?" Ryland said, his voice measured, despite the storm brewing around them. A moment passed. She couldn't hear the other end, but she could see Ryland's expression shift, his brows furrowing in concentration. "Who is this?" Suddenly, a tremor ran through the room. A whisper, cold and intimate, slithered into her ears as it escaped the phone. "We know where she is." Chloe's breath caught in her throat, panic surging as urgency turned into dread. A life-threatening chill gripped her stomach. "What are they talking about?" Chloe's voice trembled as she clutched Miss Harper's arm tighter. Ryland's expression darkened, muscles in his jaw tightening. "What do you want?" He barked into the phone, but there was no reply. Just a prolonged silence that seemed to stretch on forever. Her father stepped forward, concern etched across his face. "Ryland, we have to," but before he could finish, Ryland slammed the phone down, his eyes wide. They were watching her. "Who?" Chloe cried out, confusion and terror swirling inside her. "Who's watching?" "All of them," Ryland whispered, the weight of gravity sinking into his words. "They have eyes everywhere. We have to move now." Chloe exchanged glances with her father and Miss Harper, the urgency thickening the air. "But where?" A sudden noise erupted from outside, a rustle, a scrape, like the sound of feet encountering gravel. The shadows behind the curtain rippled ominously, flickering just out of reach. The dread of the unknown had crystallized around them, whispering threats that tinged the air with terror. "Get back!" Her father barked, guiding Chloe and Miss Harper toward the staircase, urgency clawing at him. "We need to head upstairs." As they climbed the stairs, Chloe could feel her heart racing, her thoughts swirling. What were they running from? What dark web pulled at them, tightening with each breath? In the back of her mind, an unsettling thought surfaced: who was really protecting whom? Just then, a loud crashing sound erupted from below, sending shockwaves through their feet. The unmistakable sound of a door bursting open, raw panic erupting in the air. With the noise ringing in her ears, one terrifying question struck her: was it already too late to escape the darkness? The answer loomed over her as she turned, hearing footsteps thundering up the staircase, each step echoing the relentless heartbeat of survival. Chloe's heart raced like a wild animal trapped in her chest. She pressed her back against the cold wall, feeling the rough texture of the paint beneath her sweaty palms. She glanced around, desperately searching for an escape route, but there was nothing, only the narrow stairwell that spiraled upward into the unknown. "Where do we go?" Miss Harper's voice trembled beside her, almost a whimper. "Just keep going," Ryland shouted, his jaw set in determination. Chloe could see the slight shake in his hands as he led them up the stairs. Each step creaked ominously, as if the house itself were betraying their presence. Suddenly, the footsteps echoed louder, crashing closer with every heartbeat. Chloe's stomach sank. It felt like something out of a nightmare, the kind where you could never run fast enough, and no matter how hard you tried to scream, no sound would emerge. "Please, don't let them find us," Chloe whispered, her voice cracking, fear clawing at her throat. "Stay quiet," her father hissed, glancing over his shoulder, his face pale. "We need to stay calm and think." Before he could finish, a shadow loomed at the top of the stairs, dark and menacing. Chloe squinted against the dim light, and her heart plummeted as she recognized the figure: a hulking man with a rough complexion, his eyes glinted with malice. "Going somewhere?" He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. It felt like a predator toying with its prey. The man stepped forward, blocking their escape route. "Where's the girl?" he demanded, voice low and gravelly. "That's not your concern," Ryland shot back, stepping protectively in front of Chloe. "We're not telling you anything." The man chuckled, a sound both chilling and mocking. "Oh, but you will." He took another step forward, and Chloe felt the panic rise, bubbling up inside her like a cauldron ready to overflow. "Run!" her father shouted, pushing Chloe and Miss Harper past Ryland. They darted up the stairs, the sound of their pounding feet melding with the man's heavy steps behind them. The hallway was dark, filled with shadows and the musty scent of aged wood, but there was a flickering light at the far end, an attic door just ajar, inviting them into its depths. "Quick! In there!" Chloe urged, shoving Miss Harper towards the door. They squeezed inside, hearts racing, breathing heavily in the dim light. The room was cluttered with old furniture and dust-covered boxes, but there was no room to hide. A small window overlooked the back of the house, half closed, the wind whistled through it like a mournful ghost. "What now?" Miss Harper gasped, her eyes wide with terror. Chloe's mind raced. She grabbed a wooden chair and wedged it against the door. "We wait. He can't know we're up here." But deep down, a chilling realization clawed at her insides. Who was this man? And what did he want with them? Suddenly, the door rattled. The sound was thunderous, overpowering. "I can smell you," the man growled. Chloe's breath hitched in her throat, her heart pounding like a drum in the silence, like a scene from a horror film. The door creaked ominously, and they all held their breath. What would happen if he broke through? Would they even survive this night? With one final, violent shake, the chair splintered against the wooden door, and it swung wide open, revealing the sinister grin of the man who had hunted them down. "Game over," he said, stepping into the room. Chloe's world narrowed to that one horrifying moment. She realized that safety had never been an option, and facing the truth was their only way out. But could they? Was escape even possible? The darkness of their predicament closed in around them, and as the man advanced, she felt the chilling weight of dread settle heavily in her gut. It was time for a confrontation, but what price would they pay? Chloe's heart thundered in her chest as the man stepped closer, his shadow swallowing up the flickering light in the attic. With nowhere to run, the air grew thick with fear and uncertainty. Her mind screamed for a plan, a way out, but all that came was the icy sensation gripping her stomach. "Please," she begged, her voice barely a whisper, "just let us go." The man leaned against the door frame, a smirk curling at the corners of his mouth. "That's not how this works, sweetheart," he taunted, his tone smooth like poison. He stepped in further, emphasizing his dominance, the light casting eerie shadows on his face. "Get away from her!" Ryland shouted, stepping in front of Chloe as if his body could shield her from the impending danger. "Is that what you think? You can protect her?" The man's laughter rumbled, deep and mocking. He looked at Ryland as though his defiance was a game. For a moment, the threat hung in the air, palpable and horrifying. Chloe's mind raced. She spotted a broken glass shard on the floor, glinting ominously under the sparse light. It wasn't much, but it was something. As stealthily as she could, she bent down, palm outstretched, readying herself for a last-ditch effort. "Let her go." Her father's voice broke through the tension, desperate and loud. "You'll regret this, whatever you think you're after, it's not worth it." "Oh, I don't think so." The man's demeanor shifted, his eyes glinted with an unsettling excitement. "You're the one in my way." With a sudden, menacing swiftness, he lunged toward Ryland, who barely sidestepped in time, eyes wide and breathing hard. Chloe's heart skipped, sensing the shift in the air as the struggle began. In that moment, she had to act. "Now!" She cried out, her voice slicing through the chaos. She lunged forward, gripping the shard tightly in her hand. The man turned just in time to see her, the look of surprise morphed into anger as she aimed for his arm. "Get away!" He attempted to shove Ryland aside, but Chloe's instincts kicked in. With a quick, desperate jab, she lunged at him, catching him off guard and slicing through his sleeve. The fabric ripped, and the man recoiled, snarling like an animal. "Damn it!" He growled, and rage surged through him, igniting a madness in his eyes that made Chloe's blood run cold. Ryland glanced back at her, his expression shifting from shock to pride, before moving to tackle the man. They crashed together, the sound echoing through the attic like thunder, sending dust swirling into the air. Miss Harper stood frozen, eyes wide, but Chloe couldn't afford to look away. They were losing their chance. "Come on!" she screamed, pulling Miss Harper toward the window. "We have to get out." But as Chloe reared back to break the window, a hand shot out from behind, grabbing her arm with a vice-like grip. "And where do you think you're going?" The man's voice was low and dangerous, cutting through the chaos. Panic surged within her, and as she struggled, the world around her spiraled out of focus. She was going to be trapped. In one final burst of adrenaline, she twisted, the shard now clutched tightly against her. "Let me go." As the grip loosened, she acted without thinking, sending the glass piece flying toward the man. It struck him, and with a roar, he stumbled back, fear and rage mingling in his eyes. "Go! Now!" Ryland shouted, scrambling to pull Chloe free as he punched the man hard in the jaw, a last strike to throw him off balance. Chloe felt hope touch her heart for the first time that night, but it quickly drowned in the sobering reality. They had made their move, but was it enough? They dashed for the window, hearts pounding, adrenaline coursing through their veins. But just as they reached it, a loud crash echoed. Another shadow loomed in the doorway, joining the fray. It was far from over. "More company," Chloe whispered, dread curling around her thoughts. What now? The answer hung in the air, pregnant with uncertainty, as the darkness loomed around them. Chloe's breath hitched in her throat as she turned to face the new threat. The figure in the doorway was nearly obscured by the shadows, but the outline was enough to evoke a fresh wave of terror. It was another man, equally imposing, with a smirk that mirrored the first. "Looks like a party," he sneered, stepping forward, filling the space with an unsettling confidence. "Let us see who gets to play first." Ryland tightened his grip on Chloe's hand, his stance shifting into a protective posture. "You need to leave her alone," he shouted, urgency lacing every syllable. The attic felt smaller, the corners darkened by the encroaching shadows. Chloe took a half-step back, her thoughts spiraling. 2 against 1. No. This couldn't be happening. "Leave?" The newcomer echoed, feigning disappointment. "But I'm just getting started." With a flick, he pulled something from his pocket. A glint of metal glimmered in the dim light. A knife. Chloe's heart plummeted. "Stay back!" Ryland barked, eyes darting between the two men, adrenaline coursing through his veins. "We won't let you hurt her." The man with the knife laughed, a chilling sound that echoed off the attic walls. "You think bravery will save you? This is a game you cannot win." He stepped closer, fearlessly. Chloe's mind raced through memories of her father's lessons: how to defend herself, how to look for an escape, but panic engulfed those thoughts. The weight of the danger was heavy, oppressive. "Chloe, listen to me," Ryland demanded, pulling her further back against the window frame. "We need to find a way out of here. Now." "Well, what do we do?" Chloe stammered, her voice shaky. "Think," he urged. "We need to distract them or push past anything but stand still." With instinct sharpening her mind, Chloe glanced around the attic, looking for anything that could help. She spotted an old, rusted pipe along the wall, its edges sharp and jagged. It was stupid, reckless even, but it could give them an upper hand. "Hey!" Chloe shouted, forcing her voice to hold steady. "Why don't you take on someone your own size?" Both men froze, their attention shifting toward her. "What did you say?" the knife wielder asked, anger creeping into his tone. "Yeah," she pressed, panic blurring her vision but fueling her words. "You're nothing but a coward hiding in the dark. Prove you're tough enough to take me on." Ryland shot her a surprised glance, but there was no stopping her now. "Oh, we'll see about that," the man sneered, his eyes narrowing as he stepped forward again, knife glinting ominously. The chaos surged, but Chloe took a deep breath, casting a final look toward Ryland. Time seemed to slow as she seized the moment, bolting for the opposite side of the attic, adrenaline propelling her forward. "Chloe, wait!" Ryland called, but she didn't stop. She had to create a distraction. She flung herself toward the rusty pipe, gripping it tightly. The room was spinning, but the thumping of her heart pushed her onward, and just as the man lunged at her, she swung, metal met flesh, and a cry filled the attic, drawing a rush of satisfaction, but it was short-lived as the man staggered back. The first man retaliated, rushing at Ryland with fury in his eyes. Chloe gasped, torn between the fight and the urgency of escape. "Now!" she screamed, but as she shouted, the attic door crashed open again. A figure stood there, silhouetted in the light flooding in from behind, casting a long shadow. The chaos twisted into a nightmarish ballet around Chloe. Was salvation finally here, Or was this another threat lurking in the dark? "Who are you?" she shouted, desperate but hopeful. The newly arrived figure paused, an unreadable expression on their face, and the energy in the room shifted. Chloe's pulse raced, holding her breath in anticipation. What had she just unleashed? The figure stepped into the attic, their outline sharpening into focus. Chloe squinted, a mix of hope and dread swirling inside her. The silhouette belonged to a woman, a tall, imposing figure dressed in a dark coat that seemed to absorb the light. "Get away from them," she ordered, her voice steady and clear, cutting through the tension like a knife. Chloe felt a flicker of relief, but it was overshadowed by the looming threat of the men still in the room. The knife wielder snarled, regaining his composure. "And who do you think you are?" he spat, the blade glinting menacingly. "Someone who won't let you hurt them," the newcomer replied, stepping forward with an unflinching gaze, her confidence almost palpable. Chloe's heart raced. Was this woman another predator, or a potential ally? The air felt electric, charged with conflicting intentions. "Back off, or you'll regret it," the second man warned, but there was a quiver in his voice now, uncertainty creeping in. The woman didn't flinch. Instead, she took another deliberate step closer. "You've already lost, and you know it. You can leave now, or well, let us just say it won't end well for you." Chloe watched as the man who had been lunging at Ryland hesitated. His expression flickered. Was it fear? Doubt? She couldn't tell. "That's rich," he scoffed, trying to mask the tremor behind his bravado. "Another toy who thinks she can play. Forget it, you're all dead anyway." Chloe's mind spun. No, they couldn't let that happen. Not now. "Ryland, we have to move," she urged, her voice barely above a whisper. She could feel the razor-thin edges of panic creeping into her mind again. Before Ryland could respond, a harsh laugh erupted from the man with the knife. "You think you can just leave? It's too late for that." "Not yet," the woman shot back, lunging forward. She moved like lightning, snatching the knife from the man's hand before he could react. The metallic clang pierced the air as it clattered to the floor. Chloe's heart soared for a moment, but the euphoria was short-lived. The first man, seeing his partner disarmed, leaped at the woman in a blind rage. But she spun, graceful and deadly, landing a swift kick that sent him sprawling back. "Run!" she yelled, turning her focus to Chloe and Ryland. Chloe didn't need to be told twice. With a frantic push from Ryland, they darted past the chaos, their only aim to reach the door. The attic had transformed into a battlefield, a vortex of fear and adrenaline. As they sprinted down the narrow staircase, Chloe glanced back, her instincts screaming at her. The woman fought like a whirlwind, her movements fierce and determined. "Go!" she shouted again, pumping her fists in the air to push them onward as if giving them strength. They raced through the dimly lit corridor, barely looking back, navigating the unfamiliar space. Their breaths came in ragged gasps, the weight of the near misses lingering behind them like an echo. Finally, they reached the bottom of the stairs. It led to an old door, the only escape route in sight. Chloe turned the handle, pushing it open with all her might. As they rushed outside, the brightness of the moon seemed harsh and blinding. Chloe's heart slowed as the fresh air filled her lungs, but relief was short-lived. "Where do we go now?" Ryland panted, scanning the darkened landscape for threats. Chloe barely processed the question. Her mind was still racing, trying to form a plan. I don't know. We have to keep moving." Just then, a shout echoed from inside, the door slamming against the wall as the woman followed them out. "This way," she urged, motioning for them to follow. Chloe hesitated, instinct tugging at her. Who was this woman really? But as the men's footsteps thundered down the stairs behind them, she didn't have time to think. She dashed after the mysterious figure, her pulse racing anew. "Trust me," the woman yelled over her shoulder, and Chloe caught a glimpse of determination in her eyes. It sent a jolt of courage through her. They ran into the unknown, but ahead, shadows moved ominously. Chloe's heart sank. Were there more hidden dangers waiting for them? Could they escape the nightmare that seemed just ready to spring again? The moon hung luminous, the sky a velvet backdrop for the chaos swirling just beneath its light. Chloe, Ryland, and Miss Harper crouched behind a battered shed, their breaths coming in desperate gasps. Every sound felt amplified, the rustle of leaves, the distant hoot of an owl, the pounding of their hearts reverberating like war drums. They could hardly process the chaotic breathless escape they'd just made. Are they coming? Chloe turned to Ryland, anxiety twisting in her gut. The shadows slipped away, but she couldn't shake the lingering feel of danger creeping at the edges of their sanctuary. They're close, he replied, glancing over his shoulder with an intensity that spoke of his awareness. He held Miss Harper's hand tightly, a small gesture of courage and reassurance against the night's terror. Every second counts, the woman urged, her expression fierce yet focused. We need to stay together and move. Chloe nodded, a bubbling fear intertwined with hope coursing through her veins. With each breath, determination bubbled to the surface. She was just a girl, perhaps less than a couple of decades in the world, but somehow, she had found herself in the midst of something colossal, something that threatened their very safety. Just trust her, Chloe, Ryland whispered, and his faith sliced through her fear. They hadn't failed yet, they had escaped once. Together. The woman turned, scanning the area. We can reach Old Maple Park through the forest. If we go now, we might have enough cover. Let us go. Ryland urged, leading the way as they bolted into the clustered trees, a ribbon of shadow beneath a canopy of leaves. Chloe's heart raced, adrenaline molding her thoughts into fire. As they sprinted, an echo bounced from behind them, the sound of footsteps, heavy and purposeful. The hunters were not far behind. The clicking of the gravel under their feet felt deafening, an alarm summoning a fresh wave of terror. Push through. Keep moving. They sped through the thickets, branches snagging at their clothes like grasping fingers, but they tore forward, united by hope. The darkness that consumed the forest felt like an angry greeting, but they fought against it, their feet propelling them into the heart of the unknown. Then, without warning, a solid thud jangled the air. A figure stumbled into their path, the second man they thought they had escaped. He grinned, a predatory glint in his eyes. Thought you could run? Back! Ryland shouted, his voice reverberating with authority as he stepped in front of Chloe. Before she could think, the woman lunged forward, blocking Ryland. I'll handle this. She shouted, challenging the man as if ready to face down a storm. Let us go. Ryland yelled, urging Chloe forward. They pushed past the confrontation, hearts hammering in unison. But the man was relentless, a cadence of chaos trailing in their wake. Chloe's breaths came quicker, panic pinching at her throat. Keep going. Ryland barked as he cast a look back, a wild determination igniting in his eyes. In desperate strides, they surged through the trees, a barrier of bark and branches weaving their escape. Just ahead, the outline of Old Maple Park emerged, a reprieve from the claustrophobic forest, yet, the mounting crackling sound of pursuit echoed behind them, the shadow of threat loomed larger. Finally, they stumbled into the park, moonlight cascading like a silver blanket over open grass. It felt almost serene, yet fraught with the pulse of danger. The familiar swings groaned softly, the dusky air stirring with memories of childhood. They halted in a cluster, Ryland's face taut with tension, the woman watching intently, breathing deeply, searching the stillness for the next move. They can't know we're here, she panted. Chloe's heart raced. She sensed the weight of their journey in every hard-earned breath. But now, triumph flickered at the edges of her thoughts. We can call for help. The idea burst forth almost unbidden. The woman locked eyes with Chloe, determination mixing with newfound hope. Yes, we can use the park's call box. Then let us do it. Ryland nodded. They carried themselves toward the call box, resolve coding their actions, but shadows loomed. Suddenly, the unsettling presence emerged again from the tree. Leaned three figures, darker than night, closing in. The moment felt visceral, each heartbeat vibrating with the raw realization they wouldn't back down. "What do we do?" Chloe stammered, panic squeezing her voice. "Rally together," Ryland called, positioning Chloe and Miss Harper behind him while the woman squared her shoulders, adopting a fighting stance, but Chloe could feel a spark of something deeper, registering through the fear. Somehow, they stood together, backed by the warmth of their purpose. Together, Chloe affirmed, summoning a strength that warmed her chest. "They won't tear us apart." The figures surged forward, fists balled and intentions clear. "Stand strong." The woman charged first, launching herself into the fray, determination marking every move. The thud of feet against the ground blended with fierce cries, and in that moment of chaos and conflict, time stretched. "This is it," Chloe thought, as adrenaline melded into something she never thought she could. Claim her resilience. Amidst it all, she rushed forward, spirit igniting alongside her companions. Together, they formed a wall, a living shield against the darkness encroaching on their lives. In the heart-pounding moments that followed, laughter and tears mingled into the fierce roar of victory, the solidarity against fear proving deeper than blood. The moon watched, a witness to the unfolding battle, as Chloe felt its soft warmth bathe her shoulders, tightening a bond that would remain imprinted in the marrow of their souls. They would emerge from this someday, they could savor the freedom bathed in the light of every dawn that followed. "Let us make a run for that call box," Chloe urged, adrenaline surpassing fear. Ryland nodded, the woman beside him smirking with determination, and Chloe's heart soared, a promise lingering in the air that they would confront whatever darkness remained. They wouldn't run away any longer, they would conquer together. And with hands clasped and breaths united, they charged toward the flickering light of hope shining bright against the encroaching fears. You need to subscribe now so you won't miss the next exclusive stories that will capture your heart. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this incredible conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this epic finale. Join the family, let us keep this journey alive.